Hello all. Hope you all are doing good. So this is again a question on one of the YouTube video, and today we'll be talking about how do you do a data upgrade from Business Central 20 to Business Central 21. But as we go through steps, let's first understand uh, what goes in an upgrade in a Business Central or a AL on-prem world. And I guess I have talked about it in past, but let's try it again and see if it still clears it out that some people have in the community. So let me open my PowerPoint and let's make it bigger. Okay. So, okay, let's delete these if I can. I cannot. Oh, this doesn't seem so I can. Let me create a new blank slide. Okay, and let me change the layout to be blank. Okay. So, in summary, Business Central uh, is a collection of apps. Okay. Whenever you create an extension for Business Central, it actually respects that different apps that exist in Business Central, and there are some core apps that I would call, which are important to the business. So, in the NAV word, and people who are coming from NAV will understand it. Let's consider this as the whole NAV or Business Central code. This was the only uh, area back in Business Central or back in NAV where it was one giant app. What Microsoft have done for all these years, once the Business Central became uh, the Business Central, more or less, is there is a core layer, and let me place this in correctly so that it explain itself, and let me send it to back. Okay, and let me bring these in. Okay, it's not exactly the way I'm putting it at it, but I guess the idea is so that you get an idea. So the main core app that we utilize are our base app, and then there is a system app. Because if you remember the initial version of Business Central, you had to specify a dependency to both of these apps in your app.json whenever you are building a custom extension. To solve that problem and to make it easier for partners and developers who are working on it, what Microsoft did is create a wrapper around it, and that app is now called as application app. Now, what an application app is by default takes a dependency on these, and you don't have to specify these dependencies of base and system app into your app.json when you're building extension. But let's understand why it is important to understand this when you're talking about upgrading your Business Central environment. So to upgrade a Business Central environment, these are your core apps. So if you upgrade these apps, that majority of your upgrade is over. And then there are other, you know, extensions. Let's say a pertinent extension that you have created. Okay. Or there is, let me make it smaller so that it looks smaller than the Microsoft apps. And then there can be an ISV extension, which is not modifying any of these apps. It's just sitting somewhere outside. And then there can be other apps from Microsoft, right? Microsoft extension. And there can be one or multiple of Microsoft extension based on what kind of functionality you use from these extensions. And as we all know, you can uninstall and remove the extension that you or your customer don't use. But eventually, all these are the apps and they interact with the core engine of Business Central using events and subscription, as we all know. So I'll not get into the details of that because I hope that's very clear. If it is not, we can surely talk about it and you can add a question about it. So in summary, this is how these interactions happen between these apps. When you look at from the update perspective, If you are able to upgrade these three apps first, the system app, the base app, and the application, your majority of upgrade is done, and then other elements of your business central environment, other extensions of your business central environment can be upgraded separately or later. But if there are problems in this upgrade, that's where you need to focus on. So that's important. What else we need to talk about? Okay, the other thing that we need to talk about, which is also important, that in summary, when we are talking about these other apps that we have, there's ISV, Microsoft extensions or pertinent extensions, and so on and so forth, it goes through a four-step process, right? So let's write them down so that this question doesn't get asked again and again. So let me make these four bullets. Okay. So if there is an app A, what you do a publish of nav app, and I'm sure there's no space over here, my bad. And then you say this is the server where I want to publish this, let's say BC210, and this is the path of that app where the app is stored, and you specify the path. Then you do a sync of the new app that you're deploying. Let's say server instance. I forgot the word instance on the top, but that's okay. And then there are the parameter name, or you can use the app ID parameter, and then the very important parameter during upgrade is version. So let's say the version that you have on your current environment is 1.0, and the upgraded version that you have is 2.0. So you'll say 2.0.0.0. In the same way, the next command that you have is start nav app data upgrade, and rest of the parameters more or less remain same, which is the name of the app, the version, the new version of the app, which is 2.0. At this point, your data has been moved to your version 2.0, and you still have your old app available in your environment. So the last but not least step is unpublish nav app, and then again the steps remain same, but the version changes to the previous version that you had. So I hope it's clear that if you have a version 1.0 of an app and you would like to upgrade that app to version 2.0, these are the four steps that you need to process for each and every app that you have in your environment. You have one app, you have five apps, you have 20, 30, 50 apps. For all the apps, the rules remain same. When we come through this, there are some basic steps by Microsoft that need to be followed, and we'll go through that today. But for all these apps that are available in your environment, you just need to follow these four steps per app. Hope that's clear. And that's kind of the intro of this. Okay, so let's come back and let's start talk about data upgrade from Business Central 20 to 21. The first thing that we should do is surely read the documentation from Microsoft about upgrading it. There's an article, you can always find it under MSDN, inside upgrade, you go to the target version that you want to go, which is 2022 release wave 2 in this case. And then inside application and data, you choose your source version. Either you can come from Business Central 14 or Business Central 15 and higher. So just a reminder, if you're watching this video and you're not on Business Central 21, no worries. You can follow the same steps if you are from version 15 or higher to Business Central 21. The steps will remain as it is, as same as they are. Before you get into the upgrade process, let's look up two very important articles that you need to look. One is an upgrade compatibility matrix, which you'll also see here, which is very important because based on different versions and release cycle of Microsoft, there is a compatibility that you need to check. So if you are coming from version 20, and if you are on any of these version 20.0, which is cumulative update 0 to cumulative update 5, then the minimum version that you can go is 21.0. Okay. If you are already on 20.6, then you cannot go to 21.0. You can only go to 21.1 or higher. So this is the minimum version. So if you are on 20.0, you can literally go to any version that's available for Business Central 21. But if you are on a higher version of cumulative update of Business Central 20, then make sure that you check the compatibility. Otherwise, your upgrade will fail. And that's for sure. If you are coming from version 19, the rules remain same. From 19 to 1905, you can go to 21.0 and so on and so forth. You can read this. The steps remain same. Same for version 18. This is the compatibility. Same for version 17, 16, and 15. So just to take an example, if you are coming from 15.17, you can only go to 20.0. If you have to go to 20.5, you'll have to break your upgrade into two steps. One is from 15.17 to Business Central 20.0, and then from 20.0 to 20.5 or 20.6, whatever is available. But you can't target a upgrade from 15.17 to 20.1 or higher. Hope that's clear. If not, let me know in comments. We'll talk about it. The other thing that we need to pay focus on, if you're not actually coming from version 21 and you're coming from a previous version, is you should surely look at some known issues. Because of the changes that Microsoft is doing in the product, there are some very important changes that you need to see. Otherwise, you might end up with an error message. This is a very common one. There are some tables that Microsoft have now marked as temporary, but because of a mistake in development or a wrong code that might exist in your environment, you might have put some data into these tables, which Microsoft never supposed you to insert any data on these tables. And as they get marked temporary in the future versions, if there is data, that'll cause your upgrade to fail. So make sure that all these tables, which are the buffer tables from Microsoft, are already empty in your database before you start your upgrade. And again, only applies if you are upgrading from 17.x or earlier. So if you are already on 18, you don't have to worry about it. But if you are on 17 or previous version, make sure that these tables have no data in all the companies that you have in your database. Okay. Otherwise, you'll end up with an error message, something like this. And you can read about it. This is a very common one. That's why I was talking about it. But I highly encourage you to read all the known issues in Business and on-premise upgrades. Okay. Lot of talking. Let's get back to business and let's start talking about it. So I guess we have gone through this in the earlier upgrade discussion that we had, but let's quickly go through it. And I have already prepared the PowerShell script, so we'll directly jump into it. The first step is install version 21. So you should have a version 20 already installed, and then you should also have a version 21 installed parallelly to do the upgrade. Then update permission set. If you're coming from previous version where the permissions were tackled as data, then you'll have to convert them to object-based permissions on your extensions. And then we'll come here and let's see. Okay. These are some variables, not much needed. We'll talk about it in a while. First one is installation, which we have already covered in another video. Go ahead and watch it. I'll add a link somewhere here later on. Update the permission set. Let me know if you want to talk about it. The first thing is prepare the existing database, which means in your Business Central 20 environment, if I'm assuming Business Central 20, but if you're coming from 15 to 21, then anything from 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you'll have to do some activities on your current version before you move to the next version. What are those activities? Take a backup of database, disable the encryption if you are using it, then uninstall all the extensions that you have. Microsoft gives you a single line commandlet to do this, which is this, the getNav app info, and then uninstall. This will uninstall all the apps that you have in your environment. Then the next step is to unpublish all the symbols that you have. So just go ahead, follow this command, to unpublish all the symbols. If you are using multi-tenant, then you have to dismount the tenant. Otherwise, you can just leave this step and then you stop the service. And that's the only thing that you have to do in your older version, which is running these 3 or 4 commands before you start your upgrade. So what I've done is I have this, let me open this, Business Central 200 database, which have 3 companies, 4 companies, Cronus USA, a demo company, a production and a testing company. And then it also have some pertinent extensions that are installed, which are here. Extension 1, 2, 3, and performance review. I don't have an ISV installed on this one, but the steps remain same as I said. And then all these are Microsoft extensions that are already there. So we'll try to upgrade this environment to Business Central 20.21.2. I guess I have that installed. So let's see how we do that. Okay. So as I said, I'll use the PowerShell, and let me open my PowerShell ISE so that we can start the upgrade process. Okay, here I am. This is my PowerShell ISE. This is my best friend to do the upgrade. And let me zoom this in so that we all can see it. Okay. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to import the module. So let's do an import module. The module for my older version is just placed here. And as soon as I run this, I'll get all the commands that are coming from Microsoft for doing certain activities on my service tier. Just remember that it is running as administrator. So you need to be very clear about it. Now what we'll do is we'll copy those 3 commands from here, and which is this one. The first is this one. So we'll just copy this here as it is. And then let's pick the second one. Unpublish all the symbols. Okay. So that the last one is stop the nav service. So let's copy that also. So we have these 3 commands. Now let's start changing these parameters to our actual value. My service that I'm pointing to is BC200. So I'll do a replace all. And then my tenant, I'm not using multi-tenant, so I'll do a default. You don't have to remove it. You can just specify default here. Okay. If you don't know how these commands are running, let me know. We can surely talk about it. But it will filter out all the apps and then it'll uninstall. In the same way, it'll unpublish all the symbols. So what we are waiting for? Let's run this. So as you run these 3 commands, it will complete all your step into the older version that you need to perform. And after that, we'll start talking about the next version where we would like to go and what we would like to do. So it already removed all the extension. It already stopped the service, and including my custom extension, everything has been removed. So far so good. Let's close the PowerShell, and you will have to close the PowerShell because PowerShell remembers the last import module that you have run. And because we are going to run the Business Central 21 PowerShell command, I'm going to restart it. Okay. Let's run it again. And here is my PowerShell window back, loaded again as administrator. Now let's talk about what we are going to do next as per the article. So the first step is convert your application database to Business Central 21, which happens with this command. So let's copy this as it is into my PowerShell. Okay. The next one here, which will convert my database to Business Central 21 at this point. Then it says configure the service tier, which means, and we'll talk about it. The first command does a database name set on the new service that I have. The second one disables the task scheduler from my environment. The third one restarts the service. The fourth one imports the license of Business Central 21. And then again, as we have installed the license, imported the license, we'll have to restart the service. These are the 5 commands. But to execute any of these, we'll have to do a module import for Business Central 21. Okay, let's run this line. We have the commands loaded. Now we are good for our part to execute these steps by changing the parameter. So let's quickly talk about Invoke NAB application will update the uh, will technically convert my database to Business Central 21, and then the database name is which database you would like it to convert to. My database name is called upgrade demo, so I'll just replace that name in here with this parameter. Do Control H. It might exist twice, and because there is a space, I'm using double quotes. My new service is called BC21 or 210. Is that BC210? Let me just check. Yes, so it's called BC210. So I'll replace that everywhere. Okay. So what's the first command is doing? Second command is doing? It's setting up the database name property on my service tier to upgrade demo. If you don't know how to do it, we have a video about it where we set this up. The next one is disabling the task scheduler. So if there is a job queue that you have set, those will not run during upgrades. So we set it to false. Then we restart the service and we import the license. Now, where is my license? I just need to pick that license path and paste it here. And then restart the service. So what we are waiting for? Let's run this set. It says you are going to convert the database. Are you sure about it? And so on and so forth. To take a backup of the database and all. And I say yes. We'll start the conversion. Then we'll start setting up those properties, which is happening right now. That it is changing some settings on the service tier, and it will require a service restart, which we are going to do now. Then we are importing the license, which also needs to a restart, which already happened. So I'm good there at this point. So you're done with task 5 and task 6, which if you come here on the top, till here we are done. And now we have to do this part only. So let's go to task 7. What does task 7 says? Task 7 says, again, if you remember the slide deck here, it says publish the new versions of the core apps. What it says publish the system application, publish the base application, publish the Microsoft application. And then it says publish the new version of extension, which I'm going to exclude for a while, and I'll tell you why. I'm just trying to rely on what I have shown you on the slide deck. So what I've done, it's a little bit time consuming effort right now, and there are some things that you can do which I'm still baking in, so I'll talk about it in a while. In your Business Central 21.2 environment, you get a folder called application where all these apps are available, all the apps. What I prefer to do is I split them into 3 or 4 different categories, and I'll show you what I mean by that. The first category is the core extensions, which is my application, my base application, and my system application. All these are my core application. So I place them in one folder. Then the second one is all Microsoft Rails or other extensions that you may or may not be using. It depends on what you are using. I was using all of these. And I'm just copying them from here to this folder. My third one is all my custom extension with the higher version, which in this case are pointing to 21.0. And then if there are new extensions from Microsoft in the new version, I'm also adding those to kind of add them into my after my upgrade. So those are my 4 folders, which I have created by copying different files from here to my these different folders. The core identification of core application is super simple, which is your base app, your application app, and your system application app. The Custom extensions are super easy because they are your extension. As far as the Microsoft extension is considered, you need to go to the list of extension that your client is currently using and get them, get those and copy that into that folder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to follow the Microsoft step, but only for these three apps, the Microsoft application, base application, and system application, and I'm going to publish them. So here it is, publish core apps. I already have copied these to save some time. So I'll just paste it here. And these are these three commands, which is publish nav app, server instance. What is your server instance? You know that. So you just replace it with BC210, replace all. And then wherever your core extension paths are, system, base, and application. So let's do a publish of my core application. And as this is happening, because it may take some time because the base app is a little bit big app, remember I've not executed the step number 4 and step number 5, which is about the third party extensions. You can follow that, it's up to you. But I prefer to upgrade the core first and then talk about all these other apps. Then the next step is to synchronize the tenant. So let's write it down that I'm going to synchronize the tenant. And I'll just write it down so that we don't waste time into it while this is happening. What is the synchronize app tenant does? It just syncs the base app into the environment. And how you do that? This is the command. So let's copy this and let's paste it here. What is my service? My service is called BC210 and my tenant is default. Okay. Let's see what the next step is. The next step is synchronize the tenant with system application, synchronize the tenant with base application, and then synchronize the tenant with application, which are the three core apps. So let's write the sync core apps. What does sync core app looks like? Something like this. And let me replace this while this is happening. I should have used a replace all. Sorry. Okay, I'll walk you through around this while this is happening because these commands will take some time based on how big these apps are. Still running? Seems so. Yeah. So the sync command, and if you want, let's go back to the Microsoft article, says synchronize the app or the extension that you are trying to synchronize with the server name where you want to synchronize it. If you have a tenant, specify the tenant, the name of that application, which will be application, base application, and system application. And then at the end, the version, which is the new app version. Now, how you know the new app version may be a question that you might ask. And while we identify that, let me run the sync because this might take some time. If you see the publish is done, now we are running the sync, synchronize tenant. While this is happening, it's done. So let me do the sync and then I'll tell you how you identify this version or how you know about this version. Okay. So to know this, what I'll do so that it doesn't override what's happening here, I'll just run separate partial window to walk you through around how you get a app version. And that rule applies to any app that you use, either Microsoft app or either a third-party app or an ISV app or your pertinent extension. So there's a command in these modules which is called get nav app info, which you can run on an existing environment by providing the server instance and all. But there's a parameter here called path, and you can give the path of your app, let's say the base app, and let's do a copy as path and paste it here. As soon as you run this, this will tell you the version of the app. The beauty is all Microsoft app have the same version. So if I know the version of base app, that remains same for the application and other applications from Microsoft. So that makes it easier. But this rule applies to any app that you have. You can just do a get nav app info. It gives you the ID of app, the name of the app, the version, who's the publisher, dependencies, compatibility, and all kind of details. Okay, let's see. Our sync is over, which is great. Now let's go back to the article and see what we are doing. Next is upgrade data. So let's write the heading to an upgrade data. What does upgrade data does? Upgrade data upgrades each app. And if you remember from our slide deck, we said we should always utilize, we should always append the new version if the app already exists, which do exist in our Business Central 20. So there will be a Business Central 20 app right now for all these. So while you're doing sync and upgrade core app, you need to make sure that you specify the version that you are targeting to. So we'll run these three and we'll go back to article as these are running. So what happens? You run the start nav upgrade for all these three apps. This app will automatically install the newer system and base application on the tenant. Then we'll skip this. Again, this is for the other apps that you have. There's no multi-tenancy, so we don't have to work around it. And on each tenant, run this. Okay. This is interesting. This is recently being changed where Microsoft says for each, oh, even for the default tenant, you'll have to run this, which makes sense. So you can copy this, and then once this is completed, we'll run the data upgrade. What is that? That looks like this, which is the new BC server instance. The tenant becomes my default because I don't have multiple tenant. And then this is this command. What is this command? Well, this is happening. Start the nav data upgrade, and I don't know why Microsoft still calls it nav, but okay. The service name, the tenant name, how you want to run it. You can run it parallelly for serially for one company at a time, or yeah, or you can run it parallelly where multiple functions run at the same time, and then it skips the app version check, which means it doesn't check the version of the app that you are upgrading. That is the data upgrade step. What is the next step into it while this is happening? It says install a new Microsoft or reinstall third-party app. We'll keep it for later. Then it says upgrade the control add-ins. Okay, so let's try that step. Upgrade control add-ins. What it is expecting us to do, it wants us to run this whole PowerShell command, which I already have copied. So I'll just copy it from my screen and put it here. And we'll see what that means in a while. But okay, the nav app data upgrade is over. So we'll run the data upgrade. Now, when you run the data upgrade, remember, it's just started, but you don't know where it is. Is it over? Is it not? Because it doesn't wait for data upgrade to be over. But then there is a command to keep a check on it, which is get nav data upgrade. Is it? Get hyphen nav data upgrade. Yes, you need to specify the server instance. You can see it on a progress view if you want, and then there is a interval how after how many milliseconds or seconds you would like to refresh that progress. When you run it, it says nothing because maybe it's over. The other options are to see a detailed view. I like the detailed view to be seen in a grid, so I can do a pipe out grid view. As I run this, it'll tell me where it is, how many steps are over for which company and all, which of the upgrade functions were defined and what is their state and how long they took. So this is the steps and they all seems to be completed at this moment. So remember this, when you run start nav data upgrade, don't just assume that it's over. because it says it's moved next. You will have to check that is the upgrade is actually over by running this command. The next one is to update the control add-ins, and then for that you have seen it and in the article, and I've just copied it. The only thing that I've done, which is not listed here, is I have defined this add-in folder parameter here on the top, where I've pointed it to my Business Center 210 add-ins folder. That way, when I run this, okay, the whole set, it'll update all the control add-ins that I have in my environment. Uh-oh, sorry, that's my bad. Should have changed it to BC210. No worries, nothing ran, so no problems. Okay, so we are good now. Let's select this whole section again and let's run it. That's done. So all my control add-ins are upgraded. We are good there. Let's see what's left there. Okay, it says install upgrade permission set. I am already coming from Business Center 20 and I was already using the newer style of permissions, so I don't have to do anything on that. If you want, we can talk about it someday in future. Then it says change the application version. Now at this point, we're actually at the end of the upgrade, more or less, for the core apps. So here in the change application version, it relies on what you see on your help and support. Right now, your environment should be operational. So let's go back and instead of 200, let's change to 210 because 200 is gone now. When I come here, my environment seems to be upgraded at this moment. And let me refresh it. I guess it should say not the Cronus USA. Let's wait for it. Production. Um, what you'll see if you don't follow the next step which you're going to run is when you go to help and support, you'll still see that the platform is 21.0 and the application is 21.0. The platform did not change at this moment. So remember this, we have to change this. If you are coming from version 15, it'll say 15.0 or something. The other thing that you need to notice that we have only upgraded the core apps. These are my core apps which are upgraded. The application is 21.2, 21.2, and then there will be a system app which is also 21.2. Only these apps have been upgraded, but my environment is operational more or less. And I'll have to update all these apps, which I'll do in a while, which of some of them are my custom extensions and so on and so forth. But your environment at this point is completely operational. So let's go back and set these three properties that are needed. Okay. What are those? First is set nav application, which sets the application to the version. In that case, after that, you need to do a sync and you need to run the data upgrade again. And then to change the application version on help and support, you have to run this single line of command. So let's paste it. Completing core upgrade. These are my things. The first one sets the application to whatever the version that I'm going to, which is Business Central 21.2. That is my version for that. And then I need to do a tenant of my default. Same here, tenant to default, and rest remains same. So let's run this set. Okay. Okay, I should not have started the client, so I'll have to close this. Okay, let me change this to 200. You can't run a sync or uh, data upgrade if you have active sessions. As in, you can. You just have to add a flag, which is skip user session check. But you should not do that. As in, you can do that, but not needed. So let's run the data upgrade. And anytime you run the data up, oh, it's still active session. Okay. So to make sure that every session goes out, I'll do a restart of nav server instance. EC210. That way the service will restart, and anything that's pointing to that server, either my SQL server or somewhere, will be that session will die, and I'll be able to run my data upgrade. Going back to our discussion, as you were saying, whenever you run the data upgrade, which I'm running now, you should always check because it says it's completed already by doing this command of get net data upgrade. Okay, let's run that and let's see where we are. So it says it's completed. Okay, and then this command will update our help and support to point to the right version. That's done. Let's go back and check that before we move ahead with rest of the apps that we have. Okay, because till here it's a fun part, it's easy part. Now it's more tedious at this point, after this point. So let me go to help and support just to verify where I am in. It says 21.0 now instead of 20.1 or 20.0. It now says that my platform is 21.0 now. Okay, so this is the core upgrade that's got completed now. Now what we'll do is there is nothing left on this article at this point. Just enable the task scheduler if you had other things which you'll do in a while. So I'll keep it here for a while and we'll come here. Now what we are going to do is we are going to publish, remember the 3 steps, publish other apps, which is Microsoft and PDEs. And if you have ISVs, you can do that. The only thing that you have to remember here is you need to do it in the order of dependencies that they have. So what I've done is I have already prepared the command, which is here. I just need to change this to EBC210. Let me do that. It's all done. So what I've done on the screen, if you look at it, I'm publishing all the new versions of the app from which I've already copied in my folder number 2 for all the apps that are coming new. And I guess I'm only doing it right now for the Microsoft apps. So I'll just change it, other Microsoft app. Microsoft apps. We'll do for PDE separately if needed. That's okay. What it is doing all the apps getting published, and then I have here #1. That means these apps have at least one dependency. So these apps are coming with 0 dependencies. 0 means they might be dependent on the core app, but those apps are already upgraded. But the apps in this pool are kind of dependent on one of these apps. So I have to maintain that order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all this patch, and if I've done it correctly during my preparation, it should run for all the apps. So once this command is over, all these all these Microsoft apps will get published into the environment. What's the other, which is completed? The other step for each app that we have to do is sync, as we are talking about in our slide deck, other Microsoft apps with the newer version is specified. So again, I have this written down, so I'll just copy this, and they are placed in the same sequence as they are above. Just to replace this, so I'll just do this, Control H, that's all, and then this with default. So if you notice, there's a lot of homework that you have to do before you start actually doing your upgrade. So again, this is in the same sequence. I'll select the whole set. I have the new version specified. If you look at it, all the lines have the same version because all these are Microsoft apps. So when I do if sync, if everything goes well, all these newer versions of the app will get synchronized. What is the third step? while we are upgrading the apps is to upgrade other Microsoft apps, the newer versions of the app, which is similar to the sync command. Just the first part of the command changes, which is instead of sync nav app, it becomes the start nav app data upgrade. So I'm going to replace it here, and I'm going to say this becomes PC210, Control H, becomes PC210, replace all. In the same order of the sequence that they have, I'm going to start the app data upgrade for all these apps from Microsoft. Okay, it'll take some time. If you remember the slide which you have talked in the beginning, the last step that we have to do while we are upgrading apps is to unpublish the older apps. What we are doing here, we are going to run the unpublish command, but with the old version specified, not the new one, which is very important. So you need to pay attention to what's coming up here now. So I've already prepared. I'll just change this and we'll have a look on this. What I'm doing now is unpublishing the older version. The new version is this, the older version is this. At this point, if you look in the environment, you will have both the apps available. So let's go in and let's look for extension management. And you'll see for each app, there are two apps available. This one is installed due because of the app data upgrade, but the old one is already existing, which is not good to look at. So what we are going to do now is we are going to run to unpublish the older versions of Microsoft apps. As we do that, and it's over, if you go back to your environment and refresh this page, all the Microsoft app will only available with the newer versions. Ah, see, we forgot to remove or unpublish the application older version, which we should be doing. So let's add this command here. I should have done it earlier. Let me add it here before we get into any of this so that it does not confusing. Data upgrade is done. And then here, I'll add it here. Okay, just to keep it simple. The first app that we saw there was application. So let's write it down. The next one would be base app, if it is still exists. Let me see. Yes, the base app also exists. So let's change it to base app, or is it application? Application. And then the last but not least is my system application. Yes, that also exists twice. So let's copy this, paste it in here, copy this part, and then copy this part. This will remove the older versions of the core apps, which I should have removed earlier. Sorry for that. Okay, that those get removed. If I refresh this, I'll only see the newer versions of that. Okay, everything looks good at this moment, other than my PTEs that I have, or if you have ISVs, then ISVs. They're still pointing to the older versions of the app. Again, I have to do nothing. I have to just follow the same 4 steps for all these of my PTEs. So let me just copy this and say this here. What I'm doing here, let me just replace this and this also. I should have done it already. I forgot. Okay. So what I'm doing, running the same set of command, publish the newer version 1.21, sync the newer version, start the data upgrade for each app, and then unpublish the older version of app. So let's pick this set and let's run it. This will clean up all my custom apps. Now, if you remember, there was one more folder in which is the new Microsoft extension, which are three extensions that are available. Whenever you have to install an extension, the last things that you have to do, the things that you have to do is just three steps. One is publish each app that you have. Okay, EC210, done. And the tenant ID is default. Okay, have to replace this. So what I'm doing a publish, sync, and install of the new apps at this moment. So let's run it through. It should be over in a while. And then now we'll come to our final steps. Final steps. What are my final steps? Let's go back to the article and let's see what Microsoft suggests. It says enable the task scheduler, import the customer license. If you have data encryption, enable it, and restart the service. Those are the three commands in summary. So let's place them here and let's change it to EC210. Okay. My customer license also, let's assume for the sake of discussion that this is my customer license. Just place it here and I'll select all these three and run this. So what it is doing, it is importing the license for the customer. As soon as we do that, we also enable the task scheduler. So if you have job queues that we disabled in the beginning, you enable them, and then to apply these changes, we need to restart the service. So we are restarting the service. Again, if you have compression, you will have to follow that step also to do a compression of it. Now this looks pretty big, but if you think about it, till 57, line number 56, we have done the core upgrade, which is more necessary. Anything that mostly you might see a problem is only in this area. If you miss any of the steps that we have talked in the beginning, where you didn't pay attention to the article or where you didn't pay attention to the compatibility metrics, all that majorly should break at this point, till this point. Rest all is dependent on how many extensions your customers are using, and that's as easy it is to do an upgrade from a Business Central 15 version to the Business Central 21 version. So let's see what's here now for the apps world. Or maybe I'll have to refresh this because I restarted the service. Okay, it should not behave like this. Okay, I was getting impatient. But if you look at it right now, all these apps are 21.0. These apps are upgraded, the custom apps. The new apps are also part of it. My whole environment has been upgraded to Business Central 21 in what time? I don't exactly remember. Approximately an hour. This was a demo database, but that in summary is what's will be the steps will remain same. The time may vary based on how big the database is or how many extensions you have. But remember, in summary, Business Central is a collection of apps. You need to make sure that if you upgrade your core apps first, which are these three apps, which is the majority of your upgrade, then rest for all these apps, you just need to follow these four steps. And let me change the color if it is not very clear in the recording when you're watching this. You publish the new app that you have. You synchronize the new app. You start the nav app data upgrade with the new app. And then last but not least is you unpublish the nav app with the older version of the app or extension. So if you follow these simple steps as we have talked about in this video, you will be easily be able to upgrade your Business Central environment to the latest and greatest version that's available. At this point, specifically for North America localization, there are some legal requirement where you'll have to upgrade because of the year-end processes. but you should always try to keep yourself up to date with the latest version possible of Business Central so that you are utilizing the greatest features that are available in the latest version. If you have any questions, do add into the comments about this video. If you like the content, please do share this. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. There are so many viewers who are watching these videos. Thank you for that. But you're not subscribed to the channel. So if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. This is Saurabh Dhyani signing out, and we'll see you in the next video pretty soon. Thank you.